that part of the flag. And lastly, we'll keep it open for about 15 minutes. The goal is to have it open around 2 p.m. and get some photos from the north direction, so please have your signs facing this way. And on my mark as well, we will roll the flag up, basically exactly reversing the direction we just did, so from east to west. And I believe that is it. Glory to Ukraine, and I will pass the mic up to Michelle to say a few more words. Thank you all for being here.
I would like to thank you all for coming. Having personal ties to Ukraine, the war has directly impacted friends. I would like to thank you all for coming. Having personal ties to Ukraine, the war has directly impacted friends. I take this opportunity to share my support as an American, as an ally, as a friend, family, and fellow community many have experienced war. We're here today in light of a summit being hosted today in Anchorage between American and Russian leadership to discuss an end to the war in Ukraine. We are all gathered for this moment to share a voice that is not at the table today, the voice of the Ukrainian people. Right. Today, as we unfurl the flag, we request all participants to support one unified message that represents the Ukrainian community here with us today and around the globe. With the state of affairs domestically and internationally, there's a lot to speak for, and there's a lot we need to stand up for. We kindly ask the voice and the message from the Ukrainian people to speak the loudest today. And that is a call for peace and solidarity with Ukraine. Through the valiant efforts of United Help Ukraine organization, Doug, who was just speaking with us, who made several dozen calls trying to coordinate this in 48 hours, as well as to many local organizations who have helped raise awareness of the community in Anchorage, we have an opportunity to display a powerful emblem. The Ukrainian flag is marked with a blue stripe on the top and yellow on the bottom. The blue represents the sky, often symbolizing freedom, peace, and the vastness of Ukraine. The yellow represents the golden wheat fields, symbolizing prosperity, wealth, and the richness of the land. We can see this every time that we look at the horizon. This land and the sky will always go hand in hand. There would be no sky without land, and no land without sky. It's impossible to separate them. The flag here today represents Ukrainian heritage, culture, and people, and now more than ever, it represents their freedom. When I look straight ahead and I see the horizon, I see this symbol. And like the land and sky, Ukraine cannot be torn apart. Right. Glory to Ukraine. And we will have Doug come back here momentarily to now discuss the logistics. We will be having folks who will be unfurling the flag, and then we also have any folks who have peaceful signs to also show up at the top of the flag, so then that way we'll have a nice layout of people who are holding the flag as well as signage for everyone to see. There will be some photos that are taken up from the buildings over there, so we just want to really create this unified and powerful statement of our support for peace and solidarity. Thank you all so much for being here. It means the world. And then we need to find Doug. Give me 1 second.
Hey, Doug, where are you at? Doug, yell! We're going to send people over there.
So one item I will mention is that we will be asking people to spread out. We have some areas that are marked. Oh, okay, he will be providing the logistics.
All right, thank you so much, everyone, for grabbing the initial part of the flag. Here in just a minute or two, we will begin unfurling the flag. Please move slowly. Keep the flag taut. Keep the flag off the ground. Keep it about waist level. The goal here is slow and steady. Let the world know we stand with Ukraine. Oh, I'm out of breath. We'll keep it open for about 15 minutes, and I think we're ready to get started here. So, can I have the people at the flag, the people at the east side, closest direction towards the ConocoPhillips building, to slowly, I mean just a small walk backwards, and have one additional person on either side add to the flag. Also, please keep the area in front of the flag holders clear so that they can back up into you. So you'll want to move either closer to 9th Street or closer to 10th Street so we have room for the flag to unfurl. Thank you all so much.
I think we're going to be in the way here. Yep, eventually.
If you can keep all sides facing forwards, we get some photos from that direction. Thank you all so much.
This is one of the world's largest folks, got to back up this way.
Oh, good, a drone. I was hoping there was a drone. I'm sure that's in violation of airspace. Oh, no, I looked it up. The flyers are closed. We're under, like, actually pretty high. Back up! Jeez, this is huge.
Everyone out here, thank you so much.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you all for being here. I have Art Davidson, founder of Assist Ukraine here.
Hey, hey! Oh, ho! Donald!
Launch our hearts so much for the honor today.
Orange is back! Hey, do the blue! Orange is back! Excellent, thank you.
To see support from everybody, your own side, make a contribution, contribute however you do. So a big hug from Olga, Dr. Olga Schwab, who some of you met when we had an event at the Captain Cook, and a big hug from her and the people on the front lines. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Art. Here we have Mrs. Shell with another word.
Hi everyone, thank you again for being here and for unfurling the flag. It looks incredible, the signs look incredible, and we're going to be holding it out for a little bit longer, so stay put where you are, and if you need me, just mention assist and we'll have someone else hold the flag on your behalf. So this cheering will continue, the holding the flag will continue for a little bit longer. One item I do want to highlight is that we also have a bake sale that is going to be happening to my right, so east of me. So once we put the flag furled back together, anybody who wants to go to the bake sale, the proceeds will be going towards relief efforts in Ukraine. We have a Ukrainian family here who had worked very quickly to make a bunch of baked goods for today, and I think they are just absolutely wonderfully overwhelmed by the amount of support that there is today. So if you have a little room and support in your stomach for baked good, you can come on over afterwards once the flag has been furled back together. They're still setting up. They won't be ready for another 10 minutes, but thank you again.
Wonderfully enough, 10 minutes until we'll furl the flag back. Wait for instruction on that, so 10 more minutes. Like Michelle said, if you do need help, just raise your hand and say assist, and I'm sure someone will gladly come help. Thank you all for being here, and glory to Ukraine.
No man, no weapon. Against yes, glorious destiny. Everyday women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtaposition in us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. Once I die, the spirit is revisiting us. Living and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why we sat on the bus. That's why we walk Ferguson with our hands up. When it goes down, we woman and man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots be on the ground, the camera panned up. King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up. One day, it will be out. It will be out. Oh, one day. We will be strong. We will be strong.
PlayStation blind.
I already read all of that.
Colville. Colville. It's a 3G, 4G phone.
Oh, yeah?
It'll work better.
Yeah, but
You don't have the adapter?
I can't break it now.
Oh,
I'm Bluetoothing into my thing, but thanks.
no worries. I usually do a USB-C hardwire.
Does that work on USB-C?
So do the new cell phones.
Yeah. I do have that cable. I'm just in the middle of it now.
Yeah, it's fine. The flip phones are a little, they're older, but they don't take as much bandwidth. No.
Watch your back, mister. Sir. Huh?
It's a losing fight. Robert, over here. Mark, how do you Bluetooth into the mixer? Adapter 3? Yeah, yeah. They're very good. It's cable goes to.
Sorry, repeat that? Oh, that wasn't me.
That's not pretty well. Is that for Tony? For Tony's? Yeah.
Okay, well then.
Mario says it's very good there somewhere. I mean, I'll Gumby, but not that far.
Rachel dropped.
Come up to another wireless as well. I mean, we can definitely add into that other thing. Wi-Fi is not so
Yeah, the other Wi-Fi is totally dead. Is it working? John, that the time for the press conference they haven't given anything away. We've been trying to read whatever we can into the comings and goings, but the reality is, A, we don't know what the president plans to announce, and B, we don't know if he's going to announce what the Europeans and the Ukrainians are waiting to hear, which is that Russia has agreed to or moved closer to a ceasefire after 3.5 days.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America and the President of the Russian Federation.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, our negotiations have been held in a constructive atmosphere of mutual respect. We have very thorough negotiations that were quite useful. I would like to thank once again my American counterpart for the proposal to travel out here to Alaska. It only makes sense that we've met here because our countries, though separated by the oceans, are close neighbors. So when we've met, when I came out of the plane and I've said, "Good afternoon, dear neighbor. Very good to see you. In good health and to see you alive." I think that is very neighborly. And I think that's some kind words that we can say to each other. We're separated by the Strait of Bering, though there are 2 islands only between the Russian island and the US island. They're only 4 kilometers apart. We're close neighbors, and it's a fact. It's also important that Alaska has to do with our common heritage, common history between Russia and the US, and many positive events have to do with that territory. Still, there is tremendous cultural heritage back from the Russian America. For example, Orthodox churches and a lot of, more than 700 geographical names of Russian origin. During the Second World War, it was here in Alaska that was the origin of the legendary air bridge for the supply of military aircraft and other equipment under the Lend-Lease program. It was a dangerous and treacherous route over the vast emptiness of ice. However, the pilots of both countries did everything to bring closer the victory. They risked their lives and they gave it all for the common victory. I was just in the city of Magadan in Russia, and there is a memorial there dedicated to the Russian and the US pilots. And there are 2 flags, the US flag and the Russian flag. And I know that here as well, there is such a memorial. There is a military burial place several kilometers away from here. The Soviet pilots have buried there who died during that dangerous mission. We're thankful to the citizens and the government of the U.S. for carefully taking care of their memory. I think that's very worthy and noble. We'll always remember other historical examples when our countries defeated common enemies together in the spirit of battle camaraderie and allyship that supported each other and facilitated each other. I'm sure that this heritage will help us rebuild and foster mutually beneficial and equal ties at this new stage, even during the hardest conditions. It is known that there have been no summits between Russia and the U.S. for 4 years, and that's a long time. This time was very hard for bilateral relations, and let's be frank, they have fallen to the lowest point since the Cold War. I think that's not benefiting our countries and the world as a whole. It is apparent that sooner or later we had to amend the situation to move on from the confrontation to dialogue. And in this case, a personal meeting between the heads of state has been long overdue. Naturally, under the condition of serious and painstaking work, and this work has been done in general. Me and President Trump have very good direct contact. We've spoken multiple times. We spoke frankly on the phone. And Special Envoy of the President, Mr. Witkoff, traveled out to Russia several times. Our advisors and heads of foreign ministries kept in touch all the time. And you know fully well that one of the central issues was the situation around Ukraine. We see the strive of the administration and President Trump personally to help facilitate the resolution of the Ukrainian conflict. And his strive to get to the crux of the matter, to understand this history, is precious. As I've said, the situation in Ukraine has to do with fundamental threats to our security. Moreover, we've always considered the Ukrainian nation, and I've said it multiple times, a brotherly nation, however strange it may sound in these conditions. We have the same roots, and everything that's happening is a tragedy for us and terrible wound. Therefore, the country is sincerely interested in putting an end to it. At the same time, we're convinced that in order to make the settlement lasting and long-term, we need to eliminate all the primary roots, the primary causes of that conflict. And we've said it multiple times, to consider all legitimate concerns of Russia and to reinstate a just balance of security in Europe and in the world on the whole. And I agree with President Trump, as he has said today, that naturally the security of Ukraine should be ensured as well. Naturally, we are prepared to work on that. I would like to hope that the agreement that we've reached together will help us bring closer that goal and will pave the path towards peace in Ukraine. We expect that Kiev and European capitals will perceive that constructively and that they won't throw a wrench in the works. They will not make any attempts to use some backroom dealings to conduct provocations to torpedo the nascent progress. Incidentally, when the new administration came to power, bilateral trade started to grow. It's still very symbolic. Still, we have a growth of 20%. As I've said, we have a lot of dimensions for joint work. It is clear that the U.S. and Russian investment and business cooperation has tremendous potential. Russia and the U.S. can offer each other so much in trade, digital, high-tech, and in space exploration. We see that Arctic cooperation is also very possible, and our international context, for example, between the Far East of Russia and the West Coast of the U.S. Overall, it's very important for our countries to turn the page, to go back to cooperation. It is symbolic that not far away from here, at the border between Russia and the U.S., there is a so-called international date line. I think you can step over, literally, from yesterday into tomorrow. And I hope we'll succeed in that, in political sphere. I would like to thank President Trump for our joint work, for the well-wishing and trustworthy tone of our conversation. It's important that both sides are result-oriented, and we see that the President of the U.S. has a very clear idea of what he would like to achieve. He sincerely cares about prosperity of his nation. Still, he understands that Russia has its own national interests. I expect that today's agreements will be the starting point, not only for the solution of the Ukrainian issue, but also will help us bring back business-like and pragmatic relations between Russia and the US. And in the end, I would like to add one more thing. I'd like to remind you that in 2022, during the last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my previous American colleague that the situation should not be brought to the point of no return when it would come to hostilities. And I said it quite directly back then that it's a big mistake. Today, when President Trump saying that if he was the president back then, there will be no war. And I'm quite sure that it would indeed be so. I can confirm that. I think that overall, me and President Trump have built a very good, business-like and trustworthy contact. And I have every reason to believe that moving down this path, we can come, and the sooner the better, to the end of the conflict in Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. That was very profound. And I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe, thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We also have some tremendous Russian business representatives here, and I think everybody wants to deal with us. We've become the hottest country anywhere in the world in a very short period of time, and we look forward to that. We look forward to dealing. We're going to try and get this over with. We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir. We had many tough meetings, good meetings. We were interfered with by the Russia hoax. That made it a little bit tougher to deal with, but he understood it. I think he's probably seen things like that during the course of his career. He's seen it all, but we had to put up with the Russia hoax. He knew it was a hoax, and I knew it was a hoax, but what was done was very criminal. But it made it harder for us to deal as a country in terms of the business and all of the things that we'd like to have dealt with. But we'll have a good chance when this is over. So just to put it very quickly, I'm going to start making a few phone calls and tell them what happened. But we had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I would like to thank President Putin and his entire team, who I know in many cases, other than that, whose faces I get to see all the time in the newspapers. You're almost as famous as the boss, but especially this one right over here. But we had some good meetings over the years, right? Good, productive meetings over the years, and we hope to have that in the future. But let's do the most productive one right now. We're going to stop really 5, 6, 7,000, thousands of people a week from being killed, and President Putin wants to see that as much as I do. So, again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
When I came out of the plane, And I've said, "Good afternoon, dear neighbor. Very good to see you. In good health and to see you alive." I think that is very neighborly. And I think that's some kind words that we can say to each other. We're separated by the Strait of Bering, though there are 2 islands only between the Russian island and the U.S. island. They're only 4 kilometers apart. We're close neighbors, and it's a fact. It's also important that Alaska has to do with our common heritage, common history between Russia and the U.S., and many positive events have to do with that territory. Still, there is tremendous cultural heritage back from the Russian America. For example, Orthodox churches and a lot of, more than 700 geographical names of Russian origin. During the Second World War, it was here in Alaska that was the origin of the legendary air bridge for the supply of military aircraft and other equipment under the Lend-Lease program. It was a dangerous and treacherous route over the vast emptiness of ice. However, the pilots of both countries did everything to bring closer the victory. They risked their lives and they gave it all for the common victory. I was just in the city of Magadan in Russia, and there is a memorial there dedicated to the Russian and the U.S. pilots. And there are 2 flags, the U.S. flag and the Russian flag. And I know that here as well, there is such a memorial. There is a military burial place several kilometers away from here. The Soviet pilots are buried there who died during that dangerous mission. We're thankful to the citizens and the government of the U.S. for carefully taking care of their memory. I think that's very worthy and noble. We'll always remember other historical examples when our countries defeated common enemies together in the spirit of battle camaraderie and allyship that supported each other and facilitated each other. I'm sure that this heritage will help us rebuild and foster mutually beneficial and equal ties at this new stage, even during the hardest conditions. It is known that there have been no summits between Russia and the U.S. for 4 years, and that's a long time. This time was very hard for bilateral relations, and let's be frank, they have fallen to the lowest point since the Cold War. I think that's not benefiting our countries and the world as a whole. It is apparent that sooner or later we had to amend the situation to move on from the confrontation to dialogue. And in this case, a personal meeting between the heads of state has been long overdue, naturally under the condition of serious and painstaking work, and this work has been done in general. Me and President Trump have very good direct contact. We've spoken multiple times. We spoke frankly on the phone. And Special Envoy of the President, Mr. Witkoff, traveled out to Russia several times. Our advisors and heads of foreign ministries kept in touch all the time. And you know fully well that one of the central issues was the situation around Ukraine. We see the strive of the